Grace and peace, family. I hope everybody's feeling blessed today. Let's come on real quick and just talk briefly. I was going through my reflection journals, which this is something that I suggest for any and everyone who's going through an ascension, who is on a spiritual walk. Get you some journals. It's one of the best tools you could ever have to really be able to document this walk for yourself. And not just to be able to say, oh, I did it, to be able to really reflect in depth, because it shows you where you came from. And as you go through the reflections, you really begin to understand how you've changed, because the hardest factor of this walk is time is not a consistent factor. So where you're going through your walk, you're learning yourself, you're having your nuances, new ideas, new opinions, changing your mindset. It's not going to be something that every single day you're moving. And we as humans have this thing with time where we consistently want to see movement. And sometimes your movement is not going to be something you can see, touch, or feel. A lot of times you're going to have to go back and be like, oh wow, that did happen. And then you understand that you've been growing the whole time. You were never stagnant. You were never staying in one place. You were moving forward every single day, every single second. So the reflections really help. I try to journal daily. That way I have a nice allotment of reflections so that bi-weekly I can go through pages and see where I am, what are the nuances, what has changed. And it's been extremely helpful. Like, one of the things that I was able to reflect on was noticing that I cannot stay in a lower vibrational state. And I'm talking emotionality. And anytime I've ever felt a low vibrational emotion, like sadness or frustration, anger, I don't feel that one, but the other two, the longest I can stay in those emotions, and I've documented it, is 6 minutes. Now that is amazing, because I know if anybody's ever been upset, frustrated, been through something, it is easy to stay in that mental place where it's like, oh, I'm mad, I want to be mad, so I'm going to stay mad. And then mad transitions into frustration, then you just go through all the emotions, and you're just bouncing through them. Next thing you know, you've been mad for the last 3 days. Angry, frustrated, sad, crying. And it's because you wanted to stay in that feeling. You wanted to just nurture the nasty. That's what I call it. So understanding where you came from is a big factor in really seeing your growth and evolution within time. Like, one of the things that we talked about last night in our Vision and Purpose group was forgiveness. And this is one of the areas where a lot of people feel like it's really hard to forgive, and it's actually not. Forgiveness is easy because forgiveness is required. I'll say it again. Forgiveness is easy because forgiveness is required. You cannot ask God to forgive you for all of your sins, but you not be able to forgive everyone else the same way. That's literally like going into a relationship, requesting something of someone that you are not willing to give. Be it emotionality, be it mental support, financial support. You cannot ask someone to give you something that you can't provide yourself. Right? So that's somebody. But when it comes to forgiveness, that's not the hard part. The hard part is accessibility and boundaries. Since we're gonna forgive regardless, and you have no choice but to do so, you give that freely, because it's not for them, it's really for you. It's to keep your heart light. The hard part is allowing access to those who deserve it when you give it forgiveness, and restricting access and creating boundaries for those who don't. Now that is for you, and that's the reason why that's difficult, is because it's only through discernment and an understanding of your needs that you can establish those two things. The reason why I say discernment is important is because when someone apologizes for something they've done, you need to be able to discern whether or not that person is actually apologetic and they mean it, as well as someone who means it and doesn't have the control to not do it again. So there's a whole bunch of factors that go into allowing someone access to you based on the way that they're deciding to move. You need to be able to understand what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with. If the person who is trying to regain access to your life doesn't know themselves well enough that they think that they won't do it again, but they haven't actually worked on themselves, you know that the capability of them being a repeat offender is very high. So giving them access to you and them violating you a second time, this is why they say, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. If you know they're not healed and you give them access to do it again, guess what? You did that. You hurt you, not them. So discernment is key. Now, when it comes to now allowing someone access who is apologetic, who is working to correct any slights that has happened, that's given. The world will make you feel like if you should be shamed or guilted if you allow someone re-entry into your life when they've apologized. Not if the person is truly sorry. Not if that person is truly trying to make things right. And if you do feel guilt after letting someone back into your life when they apologize, that may mean that your accessibility is misplaced. And that's your body's telling you to not let access, and you're going against what your body, mind, and soul already is telling you. Right? Now, boundaries do need to be a thing. A lot of people don't like boundaries. They think that boundaries means restriction for someone else. No, boundaries just means protection for you. That's why boundaries are beautiful, because it allows you to state your needs and state what happens when those needs are crossed. Just like our parents will tell us what not to do when we're children, and if we cross that boundary, you get punished. You expected the punishment because you knew you weren't supposed to do it. Same thing happens when it comes to boundaries, and they should be honored and respected. If you have hurt someone, and whether it be intentional or unintentional, because that matters too, all these variables, they matter, you still need to respect the boundaries that are put in place. And if you are choosing to make things right with the person that you've hurt, there will be steps in order to be able to do so, such as preparing yourself to apologize in a manner that is correct. Maybe even providing an explanation. Even being able to allow yourself to create a process as to how you can come back and regain trust and entry into the person's life. Because just coming back with a I'm sorry and expecting everything to go back to where it was, no. Where pain is introduced, correction needs to happen. So these are factors that we all need to take into account of when we're growing, because this is a walk, and we are all capable of being human when life is humaning. So I definitely would say having the reflection journals, being able to go back into the journals and see where you came from, understanding what your thought patterns were versus where they are now, will show you how deep in your walk are. And if you don't have much of a change, that shows you maybe you've put your walk on the back burner. Maybe you need to establish more closeness. Maybe you need more spiritual, practices to help deepen your walk with yourself more than anything else, because this is a walk with you and God. No one else needs to know how far you went. It's only for you and for the Lord above to really be able to figure out where you're going and where you came from. All right, I'm gonna leave this one right here. Get you some journals. I'm telling you, you will not regret it.